Hello and welcome back to the locker room, this college basketball segment. I'm Noah Muller, joined by Jake Minardi, Luke Jaclin, and Myles Berkowitz, and we got a lot to talk about in the world of college basketball. So without further ado, let's get into it.
The level is just too advanced, the bezel is Tiffany stamp, no grip on my hand. I know that I came with the slide from left to right, but now I don't wanna dance. I got too much on the line, too much on my mind, too much ain't enough of my plans. Nike don't pay me to tell you just do it, they pay me to show you I do it again. I can't be pale in my casket, make sure I die with a tan, it's part of the brand. I know that I came with a slide from left to right, but now I don't wanna dance. Can I depend on a man? I slide some bread in the jam, that's just who I am. Custom just waving at us from the window, they don't even come on the plane when we land. Anyone else would retire, but I'm not content.
So I want to start off, obviously probably the biggest game of the week was Duke versus Michigan. Duke takes down the number one seed in Michigan, 68-63. Cam Boozer had a huge performance in that game. He had 18 points, shot 6 for 10 from the field, had a double-double, almost a triple-double, honestly, with 10 and 7 on the rebound and assist stat sheet. But also just complimentary basketball from everybody on Duke. I mean, Isaiah Evans had 14, Caleb Foster had 12. But it's not like Michigan played a horrible game at all, as Jaclin Lendeborg had 21. Elliot Cadeau had a little bit of a worse game that he's had, 8 points. And Morris Johnson Jr. with 13 points. But overall, I think Duke is just a team that's always very ready for the moment. When they come across these games, they may not always be the number one seed, but when they play the one seed, they always seem to find a way to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a really good game by Duke. As a Duke fan to watch, a lot of people talk about Cameron Boozer, and Boozer's been great all year. He's been consistent. He showed out this game. But one player I think who has really stepped up for Duke, as they lose guards every year, top players to the draft, is Caleb Foster. Like, he stayed for his sophomore year last year, got a little bit better, knew he wasn't ready for the league, developed, and he stayed another year. And this is the year I think he's made a huge jump, his junior year. He's been the consistent starting point guard for them all year, and he's been able to score it, he's been able to shoot it. Most importantly, he defends the hell out of it on the defensive end. So I think Foster is really a huge leader for Duke right now, and I think a lot of people overlook him because they have great players that are flashy. Cameron Boozer's a top pick. Isaiah Evans has been great. Sometimes he has a bad game, but he's been great. I think Caleb Foster is really a great leader on this team, and I think he sort of leads the pack in a lot of these Duke games.
Yeah, I agree. This Duke team is really good. They're deep. They have a lot of players. And I think they could beat anyone in the country, as they showed against Michigan. Michigan, I don't think they're as good as their record shows. I think they have the talent, and they're a really good team. And obviously they've won the games. But in big games, they always feel like they come up short, especially like in a game like that against Duke. So I'll be interested to see them in the tournament and see if they could go on a run to the Final Four championship.
Yeah, this was a great game. Very well coached by John Shire, obviously learning from Coach K. You learn from the best, and he now coaches like the best. And they really played to their strengths this game, right? They know what they're not, and they know what they are. They can play very well in the paint, which is what they did. They outscored them there, and they play very well when getting rebounds. They rebounded them plus 12. And I feel like those were the main reasons that they won, at least against Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was honestly just a great effort by Duke to get that win over Michigan, and now Michigan's got to regroup a little bit before the tournament. But the next thing I do want to talk about is last episode we kind of talked about Arizona after they had lost 2 straight, and we said they had to get right for a few games, and they absolutely have done that as they beat BYU by 7. Then they take down number 2 rated Houston, and then obviously Baylor's an easier game than those two, but it's still not the easiest game to go into. But this team has definitely gotten back to where they were throughout all those wins, and the most shocking thing is Cole Pete's been injured, and Braden Burries hasn't been playing that great, honestly. The leading scorer for Arizona versus Houston was Anthony DeLorso. Braden Burries, I believe, had like 8 points. So I feel like it's just a very complimentary team. I feel like everybody does their job, even when the star players don't get it done.
Yeah, we talked about a week and a half ago, how important the stretch of games would be for Arizona. They lost 2 in a row, Kansas and Texas Tech, and they did exactly what they needed to. They won in convincing fashion to BYU, and BYU's been sort of wish-washy this year, been able to beat good teams, loses to bad teams, but they win a big game against Houston, And honestly, I think you're right. Arizona is right back to where they need to be. You know, no team is going to be perfect throughout the year. Every team is going to face their own adversity. Very few are able to go undefeated. And, you know, I think Arizona faced a little bit of adversity. They lost 2 games in Big 12 play, which is extremely hard, you know, to win in the Big 12. And they're right back to where they need to be. They're totally complete. Like you said, Koa Pete's not even playing. Braden Burries has been outstanding all year, but even when he doesn't have an insane game, you know, the team as a whole is able to stay afloat. So you're right. I think Arizona is back, and along with Duke and Michigan, I really think that those 3 teams are going to make a Final Four run.
Yeah, I agree. I think Arizona is the most complete team in the country. They're probably the best team in the country. They've shown that they, as you said, they had to, I feel like, lose games to really show that they were this good. They had to show that they could come back from that and face adversity and come back, and I think they're probably the best team in the country. I would pick them to win it all right now.
Yeah, they just shut Houston down in the fourth quarter. I was watching that game. I think they showed a stat that Houston didn't make a field goal for like 9 minutes. It was insane. Their team defense for that second half was just like incredible, and they held Kingston Flemings to 6 of 17 from the field. And looking ahead to March, I mean, I understand Koa Pete is injured, but they really have a great team going into March.
Yeah, I mean, it was complete basketball from them against Houston, and it really showed they needed to win that game in order to stay at the top of the food chain, and that is exactly what they did. So, moving on to the next topic, JT Toppin from Texas Tech heartbreakingly tears his ACL. He's out for the year now. Texas Tech was probably one of the more competitive teams in college basketball. Now the question is, like the Jordan Travis effect in college football, do they drop in the rankings because he got hurt?
I think, yeah, they drop in the rankings a little bit. I also think, you know, they had some recent losses, too. They lost to Arizona State like a week ago. I mean, it's an important stretch of games right here because they have Iowa State, TCU, and BYU, and I think they'll win 2 out of 3 of those games. You never know they can win 3 out of 3. But, yeah, I think JT Toppin was huge to that team. It's obviously heartbreaking to see that for a competitive team, for any team, really. And, yeah, I don't think they'll drop in the rankings, but it's really just going to depend on how they play within the next week.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is different than college football situation. They're going to have a chance to go play big games, and then if they lose, they'll go down. If they win them, they'll go up. It's just, I don't think they're going to go down because of a guy getting hurt. They'll still make the tournament, and I think they're still a really good team without him. They're probably not a Final Four contender without him, but I think they're still a good team that could go to the Sweet 16 or Elite 8.
Yeah, Toppin was averaging 21 and 10, and in college basketball, that's just really hard to replace. You know, it doesn't really matter how great the rest of the roster is, but 21 and 10 from arguably your best player, and then again, they play Iowa State and BYU 2 out of the next 3 games. I don't know if they can win that, but that's just really unfortunate for Texas Tech.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an unfortunate turn of events for them, and obviously they're going to get a chance in the tournament to prove they can play without him, but I mean, especially after the game where he had a 31-point game against was Arizona, and then they won. Yeah. I mean, it's not a good situation for Texas Tech. But the last thing I do want to go over is a team that's kind of flew under the radar for most of the year. They're just kind of climbing up now is Florida, last year's champion. And it's shocking to say that they did fly under the radar, but they lost a lot of guys. They lost Walter Clayton last season, and then they kind of rebuilt, and they have won the last 8 games they've played. And then they have guys like Boogie Fland, the guard. They have Xavier Lee, who transferred there. They have Alex Condon, Thomas Howe. I mean, it's a very good team, and it's a very competitive team coming into March. And the question is, can they go back-to-back with this team? Because there's a lot of guys who are less praised in college basketball right now than a lot of these other freshman guys who are getting all of the attention from the fans. But, I mean, this team overall, they're starting to play well enough at the right time together. I mean, Xavier Lee has found his stride with Florida, and just overall this team has played very well.
Yeah, overall, I don't think they go back-to-back Florida. I think they totally have a chance to go back-to-back. They have all the tools they need. But really, them being under the radar is just a classic case of, really just college basketball fans getting, blown away by the fact they had a few losses. They played a really tough schedule in the beginning of the year, and, they lost a few games. They lost to Duke. They lost to a number of good teams. But right now they're sitting at 22-6. They're on a roll. They're on like a 7-game win streak. And I think what most people were overreacting about in the beginning of the year was Boogie Flynn and Xavier Lee. Like, they weren't playing outstanding. They weren't playing to the standard they were usually held to. Compared in the past, Xavier Lee was a great player at Princeton, and he sort of fell down a little in his first few games in SEC play. But I think it was just a classic overreaction, I didn't really overreact when I saw that. It's going to take time for a team with all these new transfers to sort of mesh together. And as they reach the middle of the season and now sort of the end, as they head into March, they're at the perfect spot, and they're rolling heading into March. So I think they're going to be they're totally a threat, heading into the tournament.
Yeah, I agree, because losing a couple games early with a bunch of new players, it's going to be tough to play early when you bring in new players every year into college basketball. But I think their guys still know how to win. They've shown that recently. When it matters, they've come up big. They've won a bunch of games. And, yeah, I wouldn't want to play them in the tournament because those are guys that have won a championship. They know what it's like. They know how to get there. And I think they could go back-to-back. I don't think it's likely, but I think they could do it.
Yeah, you can't measure championship experience. Not a lot of teams, especially in college basketball, have that. And for Florida to have that right now, and as we all said, Xavier Lee, he really has been playing much better as of late. He dropped 22 against Kentucky, and I feel like if he can really just do what he's been doing and get to his mid-range game, get to the paint like he's been doing, and he's like a really just talented player. And looking ahead to March, I feel like if they could just continue what they're doing, they'll be just fine.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's a team that's on the uprise at the right time, like a couple of other teams we've talked about. That'll be it for the college basketball segment, but in just a second, we'll come back with the NBA segment of the locker room. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the NBA segment on the locker room. So All-Star Weekend just wrapped up, so we're going to be talking about that. Honestly, I thought the All-Star game was actually pretty good to watch this year. I mean, with the new format, with the 3 teams. What do you think about it, Jake?
I mean, I think you skipped over the most important part of the weekend. You guys see the stuff about Katie's burner account?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was funny. He was like stressing before the game about it. You could see like he was walking around with his phone. But the All-Star weekend, it was really good. I think it was the best one in years. It was really refreshing to see guys like Wemby, like Anthony Edwards, really competing. It seems like they really care about competing, and that's cool to see. They don't just care about, I mean, you could say injuries with the All-Star game, but like how likely is that really to happen? Like they don't care about just like not playing at all. Like they really wanted to compete, and they set the tone from the beginning. I really admired that.
Yeah, I really liked the beginning when Wemby set the tone for the whole tournament. He started competing, and then everyone basically followed and started competing with him, and it made the game much better than it's been in a while.
Yeah, a rare win for Adam Silver as commissioner. Finally gets the players to compete after years of just them looking like it was a LA Fitness pickup game at the All-Star weekend. That's not what the fans are paying to see. They're paying to see some level of competition. But getting back to, Kevin Durant, I can't even imagine the awkwardness of them all reporting back to Houston, him, Jabari Smith, and Alperen Şengün, after all that stuff comes out about Kevin Durant just, saying the most disrespectful things about his teammates and then having to look them right in the eye. I don't even know what that would do for the team chemistry for Houston. It seems like they've been playing okay. Obviously, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, of what's being said to each other, but I can't imagine it's very friendly.
Yeah, I mean, when he was asked about it, he neither accepted nor denied the fact that it was his account. But, yeah, I think he definitely did.
I was just about to say that. Like, do we know it was him for sure?
I mean,
he never said it wasn't.
Yeah, he never denied.
If that's actually him, that's bad. That's a bad look. Yeah, going back to Houston. Like, I saw their first practice, their first team scrimmage, and he was like, Katie was guarding Jabari Smith, and Jabari Smith completely bricked the shot. And everyone in the comments was just like, man, Jabari wanted that one so bad. But on to more important things.
Yeah, so Damian Lillard wins the three-point contest. Steph Curry not participating in it due to injury. But, I thought Lillard, besides Curry, I think he should have won it.
Yeah, I mean, Lillard just shows that there's levels to this. There's levels to shooting. Conkanipple, great rookie. He'll get there. But yeah, Dame's been in the league a while. One of the best shooters. Obviously, no one can compare to Curry, but definitely one of the greatest shooters of all time. I would say up there too. And what I'm really excited for is Damian Lillard posted on a story. He said he texted Steph, and he's trying to get like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, all those guys back next year in the 3-point contest. So that'll be really entertaining to watch if that really happens.
Yeah, it was good for Dame. He hasn't been able to play any basketball this year coming off the Achilles injury. And I think he just showed that he is still one of the best shooters in the world. And I would be really excited to see him versus Curry in a 3-point contest because I think they're definitely the two best in the NBA.
Yeah, him, Larry Bird, and Craig Hodges are the guys, the undisputed great, goats of the 3-point contest. They just keep winning it year after year. And Dame, not even playing basketball, just shows up and then wins the 3-point contest and then goes right back to sitting on the bench for Portland because he's not playing. That was just great stuff from Dame Lillard.
So going into the final stretch of the season, the playoff picture looks like this. In the Eastern Conference, Detroit, Boston, New York, Cleveland, Toronto, and Philadelphia headline the top 6. Orlando, Miami, Atlanta, and Charlotte have the play-in spots. And then in the West, in the Western Conference, Oklahoma City still leads the West as they have been for the entire year. San Antonio is not far behind with Houston, Denver, Minnesota, and the Lakers finishing the top 6. Phoenix, Golden State, Portland, and the Clippers have the play-in spots in the West. But honestly, with the Thunder leading the West, they are very beatable, especially when it comes to them playing San Antonio. I think that if they run into San Antonio at some point in the playoffs, they're going to have a problem.
I mean, they're going to have to run into San Antonio one way or another, whether they see them in the first few rounds, which is probably not going to happen because they're both the top 2 seeds by far, or they both make the conference finals. I think the only way they don't see them is if a team like the Rockets, the Nuggets, takes one of them out, which is totally still possible. Because I think there was a point in the beginning of the year where the Thunder was like everyone was like, all right, like it's not even entertaining anymore. They're just gonna go back to back. Nobody has a chance with them. But they've touched earth. They've reached a point where everyone sees that they're totally beatable, and especially San Antonio. So I think if they face each other in the playoffs, that's just gonna be cinema. It's gonna be an amazing matchup to see.
Yeah, I'd be really excited for that series. I think, as you were saying, in the beginning of the year, we thought this Oklahoma City team was unbeatable, and they didn't lose for a while, and now they look very beatable, and they've lost a couple games in a row, or not in a row, but like recently they've lost. But they've also been playing without their best player, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who was the MVP of the league last year, and if they get him back, they're still going to be tough to beat, and I think Thunder, Spurs, Western Conference final would be great. It would probably go to 7 games, and I don't know who I would pick.
Yeah, you can't really fault the Thunder for losing during this stretch without Shai. Obviously, losing your best player, not ideal. But looking ahead to the playoffs, I think the league has kind of figured out the Thunder. Maybe not figured out, but there's a blueprint to beat them, and that is just leave their bad shooters open. Like Dort, he's been really inconsistent from 3. Caruso, he's been really inconsistent from 3. And if they can rely on them to just keep missing, I feel like that is kind of the strategy to beat this Thunder team.
Yeah, I mean, if those two teams were to meet, it would be in the West Finals. But, supposedly San Antonio wins in the first 2 rounds. I think they can win. I think they can go to the NBA Finals. I think they would beat them in 6 games. Because with the Thunder, I mean, I was watching the game on Sunday against Cleveland. They had like a 15-point lead at some point in the second quarter, and they gave it up at halftime. And last year with this Thunder team, that would not happen. They would keep the lead throughout the entire game. But I think that when it comes to San Antonio, I don't think OKC's size can keep up with Wembanyama. I think Wembanyama would dominate in the series.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to judge right now, like Myles said. I don't think it's fair to really say how they're playing right now is relevant to how they would play in the playoffs, because not only are they missing Shea, they've been missing Jalen Williams as well, too, their number 2 scorer. But I think one player who they brought in and who's really a great fit, I think he's meant to be there since the start, Jared McCain, man. Like, had 2 20-point games. Just got to love seeing him do well after sort of struggling in Philly after that Rookie of the Year season and getting injured. I think he's a great fit, and if he keeps playing well, I think he can rise to a good, first guy off the bench role. Who knows? But definitely a good guard for their team, because, like you said, they have inconsistent three-point shooters, and he brings exactly that. He brings a really tough three-point shot.
Yeah, say all you want about, the TikToks and the painted nails, but this guy he could play. He's averaging like 15 as a member of the Thunder. And for them to just get this guy for just a first-round pick, I don't know what Philly was thinking. They saw he had a great rookie year. They weren't giving him, consistent playing time. And I feel like just another great move by Sam Presti.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they gave up a lot to get him, which is kind of surprising with how he was really good last year, got hurt, and hadn't played much and hadn't been that good this year when he was playing. So the amount that they gave up to get him was really surprising, but it seems like it's working out for them so far.
So now we're going to talk about, are the Detroit Pistons the best team in the NBA? I'm going to answer yes. I mean, when you're beating the Knicks by 15 or more points every time you play them, I mean, you're probably the best team in the league. I mean, Detroit has just been dominating all season. And Cade Cunningham, I mean, I feel like he's up for MVP conversation right now. I mean, him and the Pistons team, I mean, they're definitely contenders for an NBA championship.
I think right now, the Pistons are the best team in the NBA. Them or the Spurs, obviously, I'd like to see at the end of the year, because obviously the Thunder are a much different team then. But I think right now, them or the Spurs are definitely the best team in the NBA. And I would go with the Pistons. They've been extremely hot. They did lose to the Spurs recently. But absolutely, Luke, I'm sorry, they absolutely owned your New York Knicks. They've looked really good recently.
Yeah, I agree.
Cade's been the head of the snake.
And we've seen them beat the Knicks. We also saw that last year, though, where the Knicks struggled in the regular season, went 0-8 combined against Cleveland and Boston in the regular season last year, and ended up beating Boston in a playoff series. So I think basketball is so different between the regular season and playoffs. I think Detroit is the best team, especially they're definitely the best in the East right now. But I think it could be different in the playoffs. Maybe they'll just roll through the East and go to the championship, but I could see them struggling, especially without like a true second option. Like Jalen Duren's a great player, but I don't think he's a true second option. Can't really shoot at all. Cunningham's obviously great, but I don't know where they find more offense. Their defense is great, and they fight and all that, but I don't know where else they would go for like scoring.
Yeah, I also have questions about, not the roster itself, but the play style that they play with. They're just very effort-based team. Like, they're not going to allow you to get easy passes. They're not going to allow you to get easy points. But in the playoffs, everybody's an effort-based team. So what is going to set them apart from the rest of the East? And certainly if they make it to the finals, the rest of the West, and whether it's, the Thunder, or the Spurs, or the Nuggets, what's going to be the defining quality of this team? I just don't know what it is at this point.
Yeah, I mean, time will tell. Detroit's definitely new to being sort of on the top of the ladder in the East. So time will definitely tell. But I really admire that they are an effort-based team, because we don't really see that much anymore. Going back to like the bad boy Pistons in 02, whatever it was, I mean, that's what this team sort of shows. Like, that's what it brings back. And, it's really cool to see a team like that, and they're thriving right now.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years ago, the Pistons were struggling to get a win. Now they're competing for an NBA championship. And now MVP conversation, I brought that up earlier. But who do you guys think is going to win MVP?
I'm taking Cade Cunningham. I mean, with the Pistons, as you said, Jake, with the bad boy Pistons, man, that brings me back to like 2003. They just such great guys. They Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace, Chauncey Billups. That whole roster was so well-rounded. But right now it's just Cade. Like, Cade is the scorer, and Cade, makes this team go. And to have the best record in the East, I think it's Cade Cunningham.
Yeah, if Jokic doesn't miss any more games, it'll be Jokic because of the numbers, because he's Jokic. He'll win MVP. It's not really going to be a competitive MVP if he stays healthy and hits the game limits. If he doesn't, it could definitely be Cunningham because of how he leads that Pistons team and how he is making them the number 1 seed in the East.
Is Shea still in it, like based off how many games he has to play?
Depends
Yeah,
how
I
many
think
more
I don't know if
I
he
think he
could-
has a few more games
Yeah.
left.
I think it's definitely going to be either Jokic, like you said, Luke, or Shea, based on if they're able to play those games. But if not, without a doubt, I see it going to Cade Cunningham. You know, behind him, they have like Luka, Wemby, players like that. But Wemby has a really like sort of well-balanced team around him. I don't think this year he's going to be able to put up like MVP numbers. I mean, he's put up great numbers. But I think, yeah, behind those two guys, it's just going to depend about the game limit. And if they don't make it, I think Cade Cunningham can definitely win an MVP.
Yeah, I think if Detroit stays atop the East for the rest of the regular season, I think it's going to Cunningham, just because of consistency and how he has a good team around him, like the Pistons. Yeah, I think if they win the East, that MVP is going to Cunningham. Well, that's going to do it for us here on the Locker Room. We'll see you next week.